good. Cleaning is fun. Do it right and get the job done. Well, you can see I'm no cheerleader, but I do know something about mops. I'm Lisa from Active Domestics, and I want to say thank you all for watching. I've had a few new subscribers lately and I really do appreciate your support. Today I'm going to talk about mops, the different types of mops, the things that I choose and use, and just a few little tips about that you need to look out for. So number one is, yes, there's lots of different types of mops. These, as you can see, are my favourite type of mop heads. I actually find that they do a really good job of getting into tight places, and you've got quite a good bit of thickness down in there to really sort of feel like you're giving the floor a good rub. They're nice and easy to clean. At the end of the job, I just simply unscrew them and throw them in the washing machine with my cleaning cloths and put them on a hot wash. And then I put them out in the sun to naturally sterilize, for a good over 24 hours, so that they're really getting clean, and the sun actually helps to evaporate all the excess cleaning chemicals and stuff out of things. It also helps to lift the stains from your cleaning cloths and stuff like that. Anyway, you know that saying about a bad workman blames his tools? There is something in that. You need to have good quality tools if you're going to achieve a good quality result in a timely manner. And you know, with cleaning, particularly if you're cleaning for a living, then there's a lot of expectations to get a lot of different jobs done in the time. So you need to do things efficiently and effectively. And you may wonder, how do I know when I need to change my mop heads? Well, what you can see happens here is, as a mop head gets old, it starts losing some of its strands. And if you're mopping with this and a job, you may find you look down and you see little bits of your mop strand on the floor. You can't leave a floor like that. If you're cleaning for a living, and you need to leave those floors in perfect condition. So if you start noticing things like this, it's time to change the mop. The other thing is they'll sometimes get a lot thinner. So that's another sign. It's time to change the mop. If you have good tools, you'll do a good job a lot more quickly. Now, as you can also see by the number of mop heads I've got, is that I use a fresh mop head on every job that I go to. And if I've got a big job like that, say for example, we clean for a business and I might need a couple of different cleaners with me, we're cleaning different areas, everyone's going to be using a clean mop head. So that's really important, because if you're cleaning with a dirty mop head, all you're doing is wiping around dirt, and that is just a waste of time. And it's quite surprising how often you see in food places, restaurants, cafes, things like that, and you might be there at the end of the day and see them mopping up a spill, and often the quality of their equipment is just disgusting. Clearly the mop head's been sitting in water for a long time, it might be mouldy, have never had a wash. You can't clean with dirty equipment. That is so important, and of course it's unhygienic. Now I want to show you the difference between an old mop head and a newer mop head. Actually, here it is here. You can see these three mops are all exactly the same brand, and they're just a different quality, different newness, shall we say. This one, of course, is the really new one, although disappointingly it does have a long one there that I'm going to have to cut off. But you can see how nice and thick the strands are. Though actually this is quite new, but you can also see here how it's starting to to get thinner in certain places and starting to get out of shape. So, you know, you just have to make that assessment when it's the right time to change for you. A lot of people will use blue mop heads for in the bathrooms, and that's a really good system to have colour coded. I do that with my bathrooms too, both at home and at jobs, is that I save the blue cloths for the bathrooms, then everyone knows, and it's just a system you always follow and you can't cross-contaminate. You can see how lovely and new this mop head is, and this one's also just a little bit longer than the other ones. Now, about mop poles. Same situation here. These mop poles don't last forever. I mean, certainly if you buy the industrial strength ones, they will last a lot longer, but if you're just buying one of the cheaper ones, then you'll see that over time, I'm going to put these down, over time they get really rusty. And if you're at a job one day and you don't actually replace this type of pole, it's just going to snap, and that would be really embarrassing if you didn't have another one in your car ready to go. And you can see over time where I've just been putting pressure on the same areas, and just with the general use, it always starts with a little indent and then it starts getting rusty and things like that. So check your equipment and always have clean equipment. Now, I know a lot of people like these kind of mop heads, the ones where you swish them in. I didn't buy this actually, this just came into my home basically, and I kept it to give it a try, but I'm not a huge fan of these. For one thing, I can't figure out how to take it off and put it in the washing machine, so I just, like, when I washed it, I just gave it a really good hand wash and soaked it in bleach and then let it dry for about 2 weeks so that it could sterilize because it was filthy. But what I don't like about it, and I suppose this is probably a cheaper one and there's probably more better quality ones of these, but I don't like how there's nothing much there really protecting that part from the floor. I mean, there's probably nothing there that would really scratch, but this doesn't seem like a good long-term solution to, you know, to mopping your floor. It's much better if you just buy really good quality equipment and start with good stuff, and just, you know, it'll last a lot longer. This type of mop here, the only reason I have this mop in my house is because in one of the bathrooms the water gets under the shower screen door and creates quite a mess. And because remember, I've got 4 sons and they usually all use that bathroom, and what ends up is a whole heap of towels on the floor, and I get more washing and get more cranky, and so it goes from there. So I bought them this mop to keep in that bathroom so that they could swish up the water back into the shower quite quickly, and I can't even do it, it's stuck. But you know, you push it down and it usually closes. I'm not sure why it's not doing that, but clearly no one's probably been using it anyway. But I would never use this kind of mop to mop my house. It's got a small surface area. It's just got an old sponge. What sponge is made out of? Some type of blinking plastic? I'm not sure. But I'd rather mop my floor with something like a cotton head or something more natural. Now, if you've ever watched any of my cleaning videos in the past, you know that I love flat mops. So this is just one of them. I've probably got about 4 different types of flat mops actually. And when I really get in, because you know, in my house I've done a lot of painting inside and out, and my kids, I've got 4 sons, they're always touching the walls, touching the ceilings, things like that. And so these ones are awesome for cleaning walls, ceilings and floors. So, and actually you can even clean showers and things like that with these. These are really, really handy and totally worth investing in. Now, buckets. As I said before, it's much better if you buy good quality equipment. Now, this particular bucket here, when I first bought it, it was about $45. Now, I'm from Australia, so about $45. If I bought this years ago, I can't even remember when I bought it, but it was at least 4 or 5 years ago, and this has been used many, many times for many jobs, and nothing's gone wrong with it. The reason you want a good quality bucket is multiple reasons, in fact. Number one, they're made out of really thick plastic. And number two, they have got a good place you can squeeze the water out of. And so you're getting a much drier mop head, you know, when you bring it out. Because you cannot leave too much water on the floor when you're mopping. Otherwise that's going to be a slipping hazard. Not only that, you'll find it'll dry really slowly, and then it's going to leave streaky marks, and it probably look worse than what it did before you started mopping it. The other thing about a good bucket is that it's got wheels, and the top of the bucket is raised off the floor, right? So what that does is means that if you're using really hot water in your bucket, you're not going to leave any heat marks or anything on wooden floors, which I've actually seen happen before. Now, this is what I mean about these types of buckets. So you know how you have a bucket and you put one of these inserts on top of the bucket and you just squeeze the mop out like that. Yes, they're a lot cheaper than these types of buckets, but number one is you will never be able to squeeze a good amount of water out of it. Well, you could, but it's just going to it's going to be slower doing it. Number two, these sorts of buckets can be easier to tip over as well because they're usually a bit smaller, and you know, not always, but sometimes they're just a bit easier to tip over. The other thing is exactly what I said before, is they don't usually have a raised bottom, and so if you sit them on like a hot thing on top of wooden floors, you can leave a white ring on the floors that may or may not come out. So you've got to be careful about things like that, and you need really good quality equipment. This particular bucket here I recently bought from Bunnings, and it was, so Sabco, it was $50, might have even been $60, it was $50 or $60. But yeah, it seems to be quite good. And it's got these little raised bits, 3 raised bits on the bottom, presumably so that you can have more agitation when you're cleaning out your mop. So the other thing that I'm going to wrap it up now. I bet you didn't realize there were so many things to talk about with mops and mop buckets, but anyway, I hope that some of this is helpful to you. But the other thing that I see people do, which I think is a mistake, is they don't fill their enough water in their bucket. Now, if you need to have a reasonably full, like over halfway of water in the bucket. You don't want to make it too heavy, you don't want to make it too full that you're going to be splashing it around the place, but you want to have it full enough, number one, so you have the correct concentration of your floor cleaning product to the water as specified on your labels, and number two, so that you can actually rinse the water out. I have seen so many people over the years, I say, you know, go fill up the mop bucket, and they'll come back and there might just be about that much water in the bottom of the bucket. That is not enough. You can barely get a good agitation and a good rinsing of the mop with only that amount of water. It's just not possible. And of course, that water's going to get dirty very quickly. You need to have a reasonable amount of water so that the dirt should sink towards the bottom because it's heavier. And when you're rinsing, you know, you'll initially rinse right down there and then you'll rinse up a little bit higher so that you can then rinse it more in clean water and then spin it out, okay? So there's a technique to everything in cleaning, and you just have to constantly ask yourself, how can I do things better? How, you know, what's a better way that, you know, it looks simple. People think cleaning's easy. It's just mopping the floor. Well, it's actually not just mopping the floor. The other thing is, of course, you do want to use as hot a water as possible. The reason that is because the hot water and the detergent are going to remove more dirt, and the hot water is going to dry a lot quicker because there's going to be sort of evaporation involved, and it's all just going to dry quicker and then less streaks. Don't know what's going on out there. If you can hear it, I'm not sure. The neighbours get a bit exciting watching sports sometimes. I think they're singing. Anyway, I think that is all I was going to say on mops and buckets. And yet again, thank you very much for watching and your patience with my videos, because of course I'm quite slow at it all. But thanks for sticking with me, and I appreciate your support. So you have a good day and see you next time.